Alright, hey guys, I'd like to start off today with a quick reminder. Get your CS accounts activated. The guys in the third floor room across from the elevator, right when you walk out, it's the very first room you see. They can help you out with getting your CS account activated and you getting access to Visual Studios, Windows, etc. Everything you'll need for class. So get that done as soon as possible. I think they're there on the weekends as well. From like 12 to 6, something like that. Also, I'll be taking attendance via like 2 assignments. They're going to be due by the 18th or the 19th, something like that. I have to take that attendance, and basically, if you don't turn it in, you might get a message from the school asking if you really wanted to stay registered to the CS102 or did you want to drop it, stuff like that. So I have more details on that. It'll be really simple. Basically, you'll just be following along to this video and turning in basically what I did in the video. It's just a form of attendance. So, I think that covers everything I wanted to talk about there. So for Chapter 1, basically it tells you computers do calculations and computations, right? They can solve problems. It takes input from like a keyboard or a mouse or a microphone and can provide output like sound, speakers, the monitor shows you pictures, etc. It's made up of a physical portion, which is called the hardware, and then on that hardware, the programs that we write will run on that hardware, which we call software. And then basically how a computer works is it just adds and subtracts zeros and ones and shifts them over on wires, which are basically just giving a high and low voltage. And we've gotten really good at that, and that's why it's so seemingly fast, is because electricity is fast, essentially. So the first thing I'd like to show you here is if you go to the computer science website, so you can pause the video, get there, and follow along. Go to the computer science website. On the left here, you can find some links called CS resources. If you go here, you can start to see what kind of access to software that you get from, I believe, Microsoft DreamSpark. So once you get here to the computer science resources, go to acquire MSDN software license for department only. So once you click here, you'll get to UAH server here. Then click this link, click to visit the eAcademy. And it'll actually ask you to sign in. I'm going to sign out. This is what it's going to look like. So you'll need to sign in with the newly acquired CS account that you got, or you got activated. So you log in there, and once you get to here, you can just click Start Shopping. So from here, you can download a ton of cool stuff and stuff you'll be needing throughout your whole collegiate career if you're just starting, even if you're midway through. But I'm just going to go ahead and go through the motion of downloading Visual Studio and installing it. I was going to do Visual Studio 2012. I might as well do both, but I should just walk through. Okay, this is just telling me it's available. So I'm going to just type up here Visual Studio. I think they took out 2012. I think you can get 13 right here. So you can get 2015. It might be better to get 13, but really it's up to you. You just stick to one. In class, I'll probably be using Visual Studio 2012. Oh, they do have it right here. So I guess I'll go through the motions of doing this one then. So I recommend 2012 because this video will be in 2012. Let's see, add to cart, or maybe express checkout. By downloading this offering, you agree to all terms. Yeah, definitely. So what this should show is that I actually purchased it already, quote unquote purchased it. It's free. It just brings you through a checkout, and then you'll go to download your software. Then I totally just showed you my product key, but in any case, click on download your software. You download this guy first, then you'll download this one second. Once this is installed, you can easily just run this, and it's like a downloader for you. So if it gets stopped in the middle, it'll continue where it left off. So once you go through that, You just install it. The only part you'll need is the C++ part, but you can just leave it default and everything will be fine. Alright, so once you've got all of that installed and you're ready to go, ready to run, we just basically open up Visual Studio. It may not open as fast as what I just did because I just previously opened it. And we'll start working on stuff when we get here. So I'll just go back to the slides for now, and we'll just kind of play off that. So the outline, setting up Visual Studio 2012, we're going to learn how to print a line of text, add two integers together, talk about some memory concepts, do some more arithmetic, and decision making in programming. Alright, so pretty much everyone's first program is called a Hello World program. So we can write a Hello World. So the first thing that I talk about here is comments. So comments is, basically you can write whatever you want in the program as long as it's in between this slash star or in star slash. You can write whatever you want. So you can write your own notes there so you can make it clear to what this program is doing at this point, or your own personal notes like, we should probably do something here, something specific, or, change this later, stuff like that, little notes. But if you just use the slash slash, it's only going to comment the line that it's on. So first thing we're going to do, let's go ahead and jump into Visual Studio here. I'm going to open a new project. So I'm going to go New Project. Make sure on the left side, under the templates, it might look like this at first. Go under Other Languages and click on Visual C++, sorry, and click Win32 Console Application. And we can name it whatever we want here. So we can just say Hello World. Now, take note of where the location is. So this is where my program is going to end up here. So I'm just going to leave that. Click OK. And now, if you click Finish here, it's going to kind of pre-build some stuff for you. Instead of doing that, click Next. And what we're going to do is we want to start with an empty project. Leave it as a console application and leave everything else. Just click Empty Project and then click Finished. Alright, so we have a blank project now. There's nothing in here. The first thing we need to do is add an empty C++ file. I know this is a C class, and a C++ file doesn't make sense, but let's just say this. C is a subset of C++. So C++ can do whatever C does. So the first thing we're going to do is under Source Files on the right here, under your Solution Explorer, right-click, Add, New Item. Now, you have two choices here, C++ file or a header file. We're going to do C++ file. You can leave it named as source, or you can name it to something else, like main, something like that, but we can leave it as source for now. So I'll click Add. And before I get too far, let's say you lost your Solution Explorer. So I closed it. Well, your Solution Explorer, you can just go to View and click on Solution Explorer and it'll pop up. So, alright, now we have this source.cpp. So the first thing we talked about were comments. So I'm going to start with the easiest one that everyone mostly knows is the slash slash. This is down by the question mark over here. So you can write anything you want and the program will ignore it. It'll completely ignore it. Another method is if you want multiple lines is to use the slant with a star. This is at the 8 and a star and a slant to show that it's closing. So you can type anything in here, multiple lines, except if you tried to add another one of these, it'll think it's closing. So you just got to be careful with that. Alright, so jumping back to the slides, the next thing we talk about is the preprocessor. It tells the compiler to load contents of that file. So it's an actual file that holds a bunch of code that's already been written by someone else, it's been tested, and it's well refined. So the first thing we want to do is add what's called standard I/O, which is standard input/output. So let's add that preprocessor to Visual Studio, or our program. So we can delete this, and I can put my name up here, and the name of your program. Okay, so now we can include our preprocessor. So when I say include, literally, we're going to write pound include. That tells the program that this is a preprocessor. And we say we want to load everything in standard io.h. So every function in there we'll have access to. So in particular, we're going to be using the function printf and scanf. Don't worry about what these functions do right now. We'll get to it in the slides. So we added our preprocessor. Next, we need the main function. So I already said the word function. Function is basically this little set of code that will do a particular set of instructions every time, whatever it's coded. And you just call it by its name. So in this case, we want one main function. So when we run the program, the very first thing it does is that it runs main. So we're just going to type this out. Just go with me on this for now. We're going to type out int, the word main, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, and then open curly bracket. Now, where you put this curly bracket is up to you. Some people like it down here, some people like it up here. I'll put it down here for now. And then I always like to close it right away. So now when the program starts from the main function. And there can only be one main function in an entire C program. So if you're writing a C program, there should only be one function named main. And programs may contain many other functions. Now everything inside of those curly brackets belongs to the main function. So when you see those open and close curly brackets, that indicates a block of code. Now as for the int written in front of the main, that means the type of data that that function is returning is going to be of type int, which we'll explain later. The parentheses represent input parameters for that main function, which is also explained later. And the return 0 inside of that block of code means it's going to return the value 0 back to whoever called that program. And 0 in this case is an int. So who calls the main function? Well, we do, kind of. And basically, it's the operating system. So if you're using Windows and you double-click the program, basically, you're indirectly calling the function for the operating system. All right, great. So we're going to now pretty much write our first nice little piece of code here. We're going to use the printf function. So notice, like the main function, it has parentheses. And in these parentheses, we need something inside of double quotation marks. Inside of these double quotation marks, we can write anything we want that gets printed out to the screen. So it'll print out to the monitor. And this function, where it's defined, is inside of the standard io.h library. So if you can picture our int main on the right here, inside of standard io.h, there's something called something of the sort of int, maybe void. We'll talk about that later. But you can imagine int, printf, and then open parentheses, and then open curly brackets, where it tells, what printf actually does and what it needs to do. So we're just saying, printf, do your thing. Here's our string, our double quotation marked with some stuff typed in it. Can you print that to the screen for me? That's essentially what we're doing. So let's jump back to Visual Studio. I'm going to write out printf, and then I'm just going to close it like that. So every line of code in a code block is required to be terminated with this semicolon here. So anytime you write something, let's do, we need that return statement. Every main function needs, or every int main function needs a return of an integer. So in this case, we'll return 0, just like in the example on the slides. And notice I terminated it with a semicolon. So printf, I left it empty. Error, too few arguments in the function call. So what we're doing here is we're calling printf. We're saying, hey, printf, can you do some work for me? So printf needs some information inside of these parentheses. And what did I say? It needs the double quotation marks. Inside of these double quotation marks, we can type anything, which is called a string of letters. So hello world, I can see, say anything. I don't know what I was going for there, but whatever. So I'm going to throw that there. I'm going to save it. I'm going to just hit Control S. Now, I'm just going to hit this play button and see what happens. Would you like to build it? Yes, we would always like to build it. So I'm going to click Do Not Show This Dialog again. Always build. And that's pretty much it. So, wow, it didn't show anything. What does that mean? Well, it's automatically closing that little window that flashed here. How we can keep it open is if we press the Control plus F5 key. So, okay, if we go to debug, we can see there's a play button and a play with that play button that's not filled in. So let's just hit Start Debugging. Does that. All right, start without debugging. So it kept the window open when I did it that way. So you can go up to debug, start without debugging, and that's Control plus F5. So that's what I'll be doing most of the time. So I'm going to try Control plus F5 right now. And there it is. Hello world, I can see say anything, period. Press any key to continue. Well, I didn't write press any key to continue. That automatically shows up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment out my code here. And I'm going to rerun that program again. Press any key to continue. So notice that's kind of built in there. So what if I want this to be on a separate line? Like I want it to be separated. I don't want press any key to continue to be at the end here. Well, we can add a nice little special character here by using an escape character. So this is the one above the enter button. And then putting N for new line. We'll talk about these more a little bit later. So I just put in a \n, which is above the enter, and then I'm going to run it. There it is. Hello world, I can see say anything. Let's add 2 in there. Maybe I want a space. And be sure to save it before you run it. There it is. Gave me that extra space.